Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and welcome back to the Xiaolin Perspectives. And today we're going to be discussing episode 34 of Xiaolin Showdown, The New Order. And the episode begins, as most episodes do, with the Xiaolin monks trying to go get a Shen Gong Wu. In this case, it's a Shen Gong Wu called the Shen Guru. Basically, like the Silver Manta Ray, Tunnel Armadillo, and Crouching Cougar, it's a small Shen Gong Wu that can transform into a transportation vehicle. In this case, a kangaroo. And as you do, they run into Jack Spicer when they go to get it, who has found a new evil partner to help him out. The Cyclops! Yeah, remember him all the way back from that episode where Omi shrunk himself? Yeah, Jack went and got him again. I'm guessing because he's dumb and follows orders. Either way, Jack has the Cyclops on his side, and it does Jack and shit for him, as the Cyclops, despite being a heavy hitter, is still an idiot, and as a result, he can't really do well against the Xiaolin monks, as while he can knock them aside, they've improved their skills since they last fought him, and they're actually whooping his ass, to the point where they actually do end up beating the Cyclops, and they get away with the Shen Guru, pretty much leaving Jack high and dry. As such, when the Xiaolin monks return to the temple, and they just basically talk about how they think Jack's not even a threat anymore. Wuya's ditched him, apparently he's out of jackbots, and he's resorting to the Cyclops. They can't be all... Wins from now on will be easy. Of course, Master Feng pretty much gives them the rough equivalent of don't underestimate your opponents, but that's kind of put on hold as, once again, another Shen Gong Wu reveals itself. In this case, a Shen Gong Wu called the Wushun Helmet. A helmet that, when worn, can allow whoever wears it to erase the memories of anyone around them. As such, the Xiaolin monks go to where the Wushun Helmet is, which in this case is the desert, but they find that they've been beaten to the punch, not by Jack Spicer, but by Chase Young, who is there with Wuya, and he basically just challenges the Xiaolin monks to take the helmet from him. And as you do, it goes as well as you think. He's still more skilled than them, and on top of that, he's brought his cats with him, and so they end up outnumbering the Xiaolin monks. However, while this is going on, Jack Spicer finally arrives with the Cyclops, and it turns out that Jack managed to, well, get a hit in, so to speak, as the Cyclops managed to get in close and actually grabbed Chase. Unfortunately, Chase is still stronger, and as a result, he actually knocks the Cyclops on his ass, and while he compliments Jack for the strategy, he thinks the execution is terrible. However, Jack takes this moment where Chase lowers his guard to unleash another Shen Gong Wu on him. In this case, the Spear of Yun, which he points at Chase, and he manages to trap him inside it. And, yeah, it turns out that Chase being trapped by Jack doesn't just mean that Chase is just out. Put simply, it turns out the Spear of Yun has other properties that we are not made aware of. It not only can trap someone in an impenetrable bubble, but apparently it allows whoever trapped the person complete access to whatever the prisoner's possessions were. In this case, so to put it simply, everything that was Chase's is now Jack's, including Chase Young's legion of cats. And as a result, Jack takes full advantage of this as he sicks the cats on the Xiaolin monks just to, test it out. And so once Jack realizes that he has all of Chase, that he can do everything that Chase can do, he and the Cyclops just run off with the cats following after, and as a result, Jack pretty much sets up shop in Chase's base, with Jack pretty much just mocking Chase the whole time, having clearly gotten over his hero worship of the guy. And while Chase tells Jack to enjoy his power, he makes it clear that this is probably not going to last, and that while Jack may have the advantage now, that advantage will be that advantage is just temporary, and he's pretty much screwed, with Jack just doing his usual thing of writing him off. In the meantime, with the Xiaolin monks, they're kind of lamenting the fact that Jack has all of Chase's power, but he's still an idiot. But at this point, when Jack continues to press his advantage, as he leads Chase's cats and the Cyclops on an attack on the Xiaolin temple. And while the Xiaolin monks do put up a good fight against Chase's cats, again, the cats outnumber them and are more feral, so they can't really it's not a fair fight, so to speak. And the only reason the Xiaolin monks don't end up getting their asses whooped by the cats is because Master Feng finally steps in and takes care of them. Though after he deals with them, he has to take a rest because his old age is catching up to him, I guess. In the meantime, the Xiaolin monks do end up chasing after Jack, who wound up leaving during the battle, and they end up finding him at the Shen Gong Wu vault, where, as you do, he stole a bunch of the Shen Gong Wu, and now with the spoils, he, the Cyclops, and the rest of Chase's cats just leave the temple. Thankfully, the Xiaolin monks still have some Shen Gong Wu on standby, so it's not a total loss, but they're realizing that Jack with Chase's power is very much a much bigger threat. And Omi laments that he kind of wishes that Chase was still around. Because, yeah, Chase was a formidable opponent, but at least he wasn't interested in the Shen Gong Wu, and didn't really lead assaults like this. However, as such, the other Xiaolin monks kind of call Omi out on this, because, well, Chase is still the bad guy, they don't want to be helping him. But Omi decides that it's probably better that all this power stay with Chase. And as such, during the night, Omi sneaks into the temple vault, and he manages to grab the golden tire claws, the reversing mirror, and the orb of Tournami. And using the golden tire claws, he warps to Chase's base, and he finds Chase still trapped in the sphere of Yun. And as such, with the power of the reversing mirror, Omi is able to free Chase from the sphere. However, Chase is not exactly in a forgiving mood, so to speak, or at very least a grateful mood, as he decides to try and fight Omi. And Omi basically just tells Chase that the only reason he's here is because he wanted to return a favor of Chase helping him in the earlier episode with Sabini. But Chase knows better. He knows that the only reason that Omi let him out wasn't because that Omi owed him a favor. He knows that Omi only came here because Omi felt that Chase's cats are better off with him than with Jack. And as such, while Omi does kind of sheepishly admit that might have been the case, Chase is actually okay with Omi telling this little white lie, especially since it's clear that he's doing what he's doing under the radar of the other monks, which Chase is proud of because this is basically an act of evil. Yeah, it's a small thing right now, but it could lead to Omi justifying his actions on a bigger scale. It's basically just a slippery slope argument, like one wrong deed can lead to even worse stuff, and so to speak. In the meantime, the Xiaolin monks ultimately realize that Omi ditched and probably went to go confront Jack, and so they take Dojo to Chase's lair to try and help Omi. But in the meantime, back at Chase's lair, Jack makes a comeback with the Shen Gong Wu he stole, and while at first he's still bragging to Chase about how he has the advantage, he soon realizes that Chase isn't in the sphere of Yun, and he realizes he's pretty much fucked. However, while Chase would love nothing more than to rip Jack a new one, well, he owes Omi a favor, and as such, Omi steps out of the shadows, and the pair of them work together to pretty much fight off Jack and the Cyclops. And they actually are impressive, especially since Jack kind of over-relies on the Shen Gong Wu he stole, and Chase is Chase. He easily overpowers Jack. However, as a result, a bunch of the Shen Gong Wu that Jack stole are just scattered everywhere, and so Omi goes to try and pick some of them up and so forth, but it's at this point when the other Xiaolin monks arrive on the scene, ready to fight, and they're surprised to see that Omi beat them there, and so they're wondering and they're kind of wondering what Omi is doing here, but before Omi can try and think of an excuse, Chase gives one to him, as he says that Omi was here simply to retrieve the Shen Gong Wu, and to try and further add credence to his story, he challenges Omi to a Xiaolin showdown, as one of the Shen Gong Wu that Omi was picking up was the Mantis Flip Coin, and Chase grabs at it too. As such, Chase ends up wagering the Shroud of Shadows, and Omi, to try and go along with the story, ends up wagering the Orb of Tournami. And the challenge, it's basically a kung fu follow the leader. And basically, Chase and Omi are going to be taking turns performing these complex kung fu moves, and the other person has to mimic them completely, and if they fail or falter or fall, then they're the loser. As such, parameters met, Xiaolin showdown time. And as a result, Chase's lair transforms into this big rocky cavern with Chase and Omi basically just doing what they're doing. Just kung fu follow the leader, as they both just keep doing all these intricate moves to try and trip the other up. And we see that Chase, while not directly using the Shroud of Shadows, does try and use it to his advantage, as he used it to cover a pillar that Omi would have landed on, which almost causes him to fall, but thankfully he manages to regain his footing. Thankfully, Omi's able to turn the tide, as well during one move, he manages to use the Orb of Tournami combined with his water element to freeze the platform that Chase was on, which in turn causes him to lose his footing and fall, with Chase not face planting because he's the master of balance and he literally holds himself up with his finger. But either way, this technically means he loses the showdown, and thus Omi wins and gets the spoils. As such, the other Xiaolin monks are congratulating Omi as they leave Chase's lair, though before Omi leaves, he quietly thanks Chase for covering for him before he follows after. However, as the Xiaolin monks are leaving, Omi kind of wonders if he actually won the showdown legitimately. After all, Chase is still an incredibly skilled opponent. He probably could have gotten out of his little swan dive very easily. But the other Xiaolin monks basically just write it off, saying, "Well, why would he do that? It's not like he owed you anything." To which Omi realizes that Chase may have very easily thrown the match as a thank you for Omi freeing him. And the episode ends as he follows the other Xiaolin monks out, keeping his mouth shut. So yeah, that was the New Order. Now, admittedly, when the episode began, I was ready to kind of write this off as another filler episode. Not bad by any means, but the first half of this episode really just kind of feels like a standard Xiaolin showdown stuff. Even with the inclusion of Chase, what we see in the episode is just stuff that you would see in from episode to episode. High antics, a villain of the week making a comeback, Jack Spicer getting new power and abusing it to hell and back to try and get the monks before they try and find a solution around it. But the second half of the episode is where things start getting a little trickier, as the second half of the episode definitely adds more to the ongoing plot regarding Chase Young and Omi. Now, I'm not saying all this to say that the first half of the episode is bad. It's, again, standard Xiaolin Showdown stuff, and that doesn't make for a bad episode. And in fact, I'll give credit where it's due. I like that we still see Jack, despite him losing resources, still staying in the game and trying his best to actively be a force for evil. As he adapts to the fact that he's apparently lost some of his forces to get the Cyclops back on his side, which I kind of like that he's okay with having the Cyclops now. I like that he takes advantage of what he has at his disposal with the Spear of Yun to trap Chase Young and take his power, and upon getting Chase's power, he presses the advantage immediately and leads another assault on the Xiaolin Temple. Mind you, I'm surprised that the Xiaolin monks didn't see it coming, since a couple episodes back, we saw that they had an alarm system, but hey, why talk about consistency with the Xiaolin Temple security at this point? I'm sure all those nameless elder monks are just off somewhere drinking pina coladas or something. I don't fucking know. I don't know. I'm sorry that I keep bringing this up, but it just annoys me. So I'm not saying the first half is bad, but the second half is definitely where the episode shines, so to speak. Especially with the implication that Chase basically took advantage of the situation to try and get within Omi's good graces, and that's really what happened by the end of this episode. Yeah, there's no real resolution with Chase, as while he's freed, he still is an antagonist and still makes it clear he means to do the Xiaolin monks harm. But the thing is, we still see Chase's code of honor come through, as he does return the favor to Omi for freeing him by helping him fight against Jack Spicer, although you could argue that was more the enemy of my enemy, so to speak, since Jack was the one that trapped him, and he probably wanted payback. So he figured it was in his best interest to help out Omi just because he wanted said paid back. And then likewise covering further for Omi by saying, "Oh, Omi just came here to get his Shengong Wu back," and then try and add more credence to that cover story by challenging Omi to a Xiaolin showdown, making it look as though that Omi didn't come here to act as a friend for Chase, but rather he came here with ill intent. And so Chase pretty much went along with him by saying, "Oh, you're here to fight me. Well, then fight we shall." It's actually I like that. And by the end, when it's implied that Chase threw the Xiaolin showdown just as a thank you for Omi, it leaves you feeling a little uneasy. It's again showcasing more of Chase's code of honor, so to speak, but it definitely still makes you feel uncomfortable. Mostly because you know that hold on one second. Sorry, had to figure out how to articulate this. It leaves you feeling uncomfortable because this makes it clear that Chase is the chess master. Oh, yeah, he started the situation with no control, but he rolled with the punches all the same. And you could technically argue that maybe everything that happened in this episode, in one way or another, all really fed back into him. Now, or maybe he planned this out. Like, you could argue that him getting trapped in the sphere of Yun was probably not something he wanted to happen. But at the same time, you could argue that at the same time, you could argue that maybe he always thought it was a possibility. Maybe he intentionally showed up to get the Wushun helmet, knowing that Jack Spicer would be there, and basically just played possum enough so that he could get into a position where Omi would be forced to help him out. But you could also argue that maybe he didn't expect it to happen. That maybe he didn't know that Jack would be smart enough to use the Spear of Yun. Maybe he intentionally arrived on the scene, grabbing the Wushun helmet, intending to fight the monks and try and build a rapport with Omi in order to get the Wushun helmet. Maybe he was planning to give it to the Xiaolin monks all along, especially since we know that he only cares about Shen Gongwu if he thinks that going after them is worth it. Guys, we have established, as like I said, we know he doesn't give a shit about them in most circumstances. And so kind of seeing him, and so to see him by the end of the episode just actually working alongside Omi to fight Jack, and then likewise covering for him so that the other Xiaolin monks don't realize what Omi was up to, it helps really create a sense of unease knowing that Chase might have set all this up right from the beginning of the episode. And if he didn't set all this up, he at the very least planned for some of these events to occur. He at least planned to gain Omi's trust, at least build a mutual respect. And by the end of the episode, I think that's what happened. Because again, Chase makes it clear in this episode that his end goal is still to get Omi on his side. It's why he kind of rubbed it in Omi's face that Omi was hiding things from the other monks, or that he justified helping out the enemy even though he's the enemy. Basically, he's obviously trying to wear down Omi's moral fiber, but the thing is, he also wants Omi to be his partner. And the thing is, if he wants Omi to not only work with him, but listen to what he's saying, he needs to build trust. And we've seen him kind of work at that even as far back as the Evil Within episode, where he helped out Omi to try and take down Sabini by giving him tips, telling him how to fight him, giving him moves, and so forth. I do like that. It's showcasing Chase being smart and actually just planting the seeds. And yes, while he still makes it clear, oh, I'm not on your side, I'm still evil, it's clear, you can see that he is slowly wearing away at Omi by essentially trying to get in his good graces. Because the thing is, for someone as optimistic as Omi, he's more willing to listen to Chase, mostly because Chase does have a code of honor, unlike other villains. And as we saw with Omi, he does, in some regard, respect Chase Young's abilities. He knows how capable Chase is as a fighter. And the thing is, you can make the argument that Omi in some way maybe wants to bring Chase back to the side of the Angels, because he knows that Chase was a good person, and clearly some of his goodness is still there, as despite the fact that he's this big grand master of evil doing, he still, like I said, he has his own code. He'll use people, but he also gives respect when necessary. He compliments his opponents when he thinks they're doing well, and chastises others that he thinks are faulting. He doesn't use weapons because he's afraid of over-relying on them, and yet he'll still go after certain weapons if he thinks they're a big enough threat. There is, again, a certain code to his darkness, and the fact that Omi can see it too is probably what compels Omi to still seek Chase out and want to befriend him, even though he knows that Chase will probably want to use him later on. I do appreciate that, and I do like that in this episode, Chase is still trying to get Omi to, be more malleable or more pliable to trying to listen to him. He didn't have to try and cover for Omi, and yes, it was basically a tit for tat thing, as Omi helped him, so he helped Omi. But at the same time, it makes it clear that it's basically made clear that by the end of the episode, Chase was holding all the cards this entire game, and the thing is, the fact that the game isn't over just shows that Chase probably still has another hand up his sleeve. So of course Omi feels a little uneasy, as it makes him wonder as it makes him kind of question what kind of person Chase is, and likewise makes him question whether Chase is someone that he should even be getting close to. And yet at the same time, Chase is still trying to be nice to Omi, trying to win him over. It creates a sense of unease because even Omi is beginning to realize that Chase has grander ambitions, and Omi knows on some level they involve him. And I like that. I like seeing it built on. And yes, by the end of the episode, it doesn't feel like there is a complete resolution there. Oh yes, we got a resolution in the form of Jack losing his edge with Chase Young's freedom. But the big resolution with Chase, there's still a lot there left unsaid that we know needs to be addressed later, and I love that. I think it's really good, and it helps make you wonder where things are going to go from here on out. So in that regard, I actually do like that. I do really like that. As for the rest of the episode, again, I think the first half is enjoyable and definitely kind of feels like something you would see out of standard Xiaolin showdown, with Jack finding a new plan, getting new power, and lording it over the Xiaolin monks. It's still fun and has some great action, especially with the Xiaolin monks versus Chase's cats. I do like seeing that Jack is still trying to get in the game, as in this episode he does kind of get a win by trapping Chase Young, which if Chase didn't plan for that, then good on Jack. He actually managed to get a win there, especially against someone who in every regard is probably better than him. Likewise with the second half of the episode, it's like I said, it gives the episode a great weight to it that I think helps kind of carry it and make you feel uneasy but interested in seeing where the episode goes. And of course, we still got some really good action with the Xiaolin monks. Like I said, the Xiaolin showdown I think was really creative and interesting. Again, like the episode, it does make you feel a little uneasy and wonder if things are actually resolved, since it's implied that Chase might have thrown the match just as a thank you to Omi. But I still think it's nice. I still think it's nice. I like that in some way we actually are seeing a little bit more with Chase and Wuya's partnership, as we see that Wuya has actually started to fall for Chase a little, which even Chase is a little grossed out by, I think, which I kind of love. And I like that we're seeing Jack kind of get out of his hero worship of Chase. Yeah, he still thinks that Chase is cool, but at this point, he's not trying to worship the ground Chase walks on anymore. Especially since in this episode, he's actively fighting against Chase and lords the fact that he outsmarted him over him whenever he gets the opportunity. So it's clear that while Jack does respect Chase to a degree still, it's clear that he's gotten a little out of his hero worship and has every intent of potentially fighting Chase should they meet again. I guess getting tricked into becoming a giant monkey probably loses some points, especially with Chase taking his partner, so to speak, with Wuya. So, what can you do there? On top of that, I should probably talk about the Shen Gong Wu in this episode, as we don't really see them used. The Shen Guru! I honestly don't know why this thing exists. I don't hate it as a concept. It's another vehicle-based Shen Gong Wu, and I already thought that those are pretty cool. Sorry, Chinny's over there moving, so apologies if you hear any clinking or the camera moving. But like I said, the Shen Guru is just another vehicle-based Shen Gong Wu, and I kind of just wonder why it exists at all, especially since we've gotten 3 already. And you could argue that, well, those ones probably made sense, as one's for air, as one's for flying through the air, one's for digging underground, and one's for basic land travel. The Shen Guru, it feels like what the Crouching Cougar does, except it's a kangaroo. Why do we need this? I don't know. I'm not objecting to it existing at all. I'm just wondering why it needed to... Okay, I guess I am objecting to why it exists at all. Because it feels like what the Crouching Cougar has done. Don't hate it! Just wondering why it needed to exist, considering that we already got 3 other travel Shen Gong Wu, and one of them basically does what this thing does, but better. So, I don't know. As for the Wushun helmet, again, we don't see it used in the episode, but I do think it's a creative idea. The idea that you can just put this helmet on and you can use its power to just wipe the memories of your opponents. Definitely give you an advantage in battle in that regard, as you can easily just make your opponents completely clueless as to what the hell's going on, which in turn, as they try to catch up on the situation or basically just wonder what the hell's going on, you can easily whoop their asses or just get away scot-free. I don't know how that could work. So that's kind of useful. Scary, but it's useful, so I'll give you that one. But I guess when it comes down to the episode as a whole, I do think it's enjoyable. And again, the first half of the episode feels like it was filler, but the second half definitely makes you feel uneasy and feel uneasy, strange, and like things are unresolved. That the battle is still ongoing, and that it's clear that Chase is still holding all the cards. It definitely, again, it really works to the episode's advantage. It makes you feel uneasy. It makes you wonder just where things are going, especially since, as Chase said in the episode, things are still left unresolved, which. Again, I just restated several times. Point is, it's good. Definitely builds up stuff for later episodes. Keeps you invested in where things are going to go. On the whole, definitely a pretty good episode. So, yeah, I think that's really all I have to say. I thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson, and I hope to see you next week. Take care.